We are honored here at the Bitcoin.com studio to have the Treasury Secretary of the United States. And honestly, one of the unsung heroes of this administration, just a loyal operator executing on the president's agenda. And all of a sudden, you look at the market and we're at record highs, and he's been a superstar. It is Scott Bessent, Mr. Secretary. Great to see you. Thank you for joining us. First, I just want to say you have kept your head down, and we have trade deals with Vietnam, and inflation is low, and wage growth is up. And we have trusted you and trust the process. Before we get into the big, beautiful bill, what is the state of the American economy?
It's in transition, Charlie. And again, thanks for having me. Thanks for everything you do. Thank you. That the economy's in transition. As I've said, we are reprivatizing the economy. We had this blowout government spending from the Biden years, biggest that we'd ever seen, 6.7% deficit to GDP when we weren't at war or weren't in a recession. So we are taking away from the government spending, bringing it over to the private sector. And the centerpiece on that, President Trump is going to sign tomorrow. The one big, beautiful bill is going to create what I call parallel prosperity. So it is the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act and the power of that for business. And then for working Americans, no tax on tips, no tax on overtime. 85% of seniors will not be paying tax on Social Security, and you will be able to deduct auto loans for American-made cars. So I think that the transition will begin tomorrow. If the Hakeem Jeffries can ever sit down and let the Republicans vote. And then, on Monday, I think that we are going to unleash a capital spending boom in the U.S., which will first manifest itself in construction and then lead to a pickup in manufacturing jobs like we haven't seen in decades.
So now emphasizing the big, beautiful bill even further, I am doing every fall and spring a massive campus tour, and young people repeatedly are worried that they are entering a renting economy, not an ownership economy. That they want to be able to have the same access to buying a home and buying assets like their parents did. What does this bill do to help the next generation, specifically those that are graduating college, to be able to have their piece of the American dream, be able to own homes and not just be lifelong renters?
Well, out of the blocks, I think we are going to see that it will increase real wages. It's going to bring down inflation. And Charlie, for your generation, you've gotten a bad deal. That the Biden administration, the great inflation post-COVID, which they knew was coming, but they didn't care because they wanted to blow out the spending. They also put on substantial regulations. So what happens was you got a demand shock from the government, but then all this regulation created the inflation. So that created supply constraints. That's how you get inflation. So what we are doing is we're going to create a demand shock. We are going to see the private sector take over, and the private sector is how you get good paying jobs where you can get real wage increases in excess of inflation. And on the other side, away from the one big beautiful bill, the rest of our agenda is deregulation. And there's a thought that deregulation would bring costs for the average household. So let's say for a single average household will be about $10,000. So let's say for a single person, that'd be about $2,500. So we are laser focused on ending this affordability crisis. Once we have finished trade and taxes here at Treasury, we're going to take on the student loan portfolio. We don't have a solution for what's going on there, but I do think that just forgiving student debt was unacceptable. But
yes,
I do
think
agree. I think that there is a firm and humane way to deal with the student debt crisis. And we are going to be focused on that here at Treasury because, for many young Americans, they've started out post-college with the equivalent of a mortgage. So, we're going to be working on that. But, the real thing here, and again, it's depending on what you're doing, is, I started my career out, I lived on the tip wages. So no tax on wages is a pretty good start.
The no tax on tips, by the way, is major. We're going to see now more money in consumers' pockets, which will stimulate bottom-up consumer spending. But I do want to, and I love all of that, and I agree with you on the student loan situation. First of all, we shouldn't penalize the blue-collar workers that don't have student loans, but we have to find some way to navigate this. I think we got to get colleges to start to pay it. That's my opinion. Start to have colleges have some portion of the student loan repayment. But I want to put 439 up on screen here. This is the real blue-collar wage growth. This is a remarkable accomplishment, Mr. Secretary, that I know you want to emphasize. Walk us through what we are seeing on this chart here. This is officially from the Department of Treasury. It's year-to-date real hourly earnings, growth for production and non-supervisory workers. What are we looking at here?
So, Charlie, what it shows us is that the President Trump is the working American president. So for the first 5 months of any presidential term here, we go back to Richard Nixon. President Trump's current term since January 20th has seen the fastest blue-collar wage growth, 1.7% real hourly earnings, and that the second biggest wage growth was in President Trump's first term. So we can see the dedication that his policies have for working Americans, and all this is before the one big beautiful bill kicks in.
And so you've mentioned this on previous segments, and I want to emphasize this. The tariffs, we were told, were going to collapse the economy. We were told that the entire trade portfolio was going to result in just economic collapse. What would you say is driving this? And how will tariffs then play into this massive tax cut deregulatory agenda?
So, Charlie, it's amazing what President Trump has done since January 20th. He's, and maybe we'll talk about it later, but it's peace deals, trade deals, and tax deals, which everyone said couldn't be done, or certainly couldn't be done by the 4th of July. We've all seen he has transformed the discussion in the Middle East, Congo and Rwanda, which hasn't gotten much publicity. He's working on Russia, Ukraine. We're going to sign this tax deal tomorrow. And then to your question on tariffs, we have changed the discussion here on the trade fairness with the U.S. The president has used tariffs as I always say, Alexander Hamilton was the original tariff man. He liked tariffs for two reasons. One, to protect U.S. industry. Two, revenues for the Treasury. And now three, President Trump is now using tariffs to negotiate. And there, here at Treasury, at the Commerce Department, USTR, the trade representative, there is long-term senior staff who in 20, 30 years said that they have never seen the deals that we are getting from tough countries, like Vietnam, some of the other trade deals that we're going to announce. But the dog that didn't bark was the idea that tariffs were going to collapse the economy. They were going to create big inflation, that they were going to kill the stock market. As you said earlier, we're at a new high in the market. And for my 35-year career in the financial investment business, I always listened to what the market was telling me. And the market is saying that this is good for the economy. And in terms of paying down debt, I don't agree with the CBO scoring on the deficit, but I always counter the people who want to quote the CBO. I said, CBO says that there's going to be 2.8 trillion of tariff income over the next 10 years. And that it pays down a lot of debt.
Yeah, and it offsets the working class tax cuts. It offsets the necessary tax cuts. In closing here, Mr. Secretary, so I know you got to run and you have a lot in front of you. Of all the big, beautiful bill elements, what parts are you most excited about that you don't think have gotten adequate media attention? We have the $1,000 baby investment account. We have obviously some drill baby drill. What do you wish as Treasury Secretary of the United States would get more attention that you think is going to supercharge growth in the economy? Parts of this major bill, please.
I Charlie, what I like about this bill is the parallel prosperity. So it's good for business, good for working people. And the intersection of that is really in this 100% expensing for equipment. And for the next 5 years, you're going to be, if you're building a factory in the United States, you are going to be able to expense 100% of the factory structure. So we have made the United States of America the best place to start a business, deregulation, tax certainty, but now you can write the entire, all your equipment expenses off in 1 year. And I tell you, in the first Trump term, that is what drove the growth, because it is real after-tax returns are what drive productivity, and we are in the middle of this big productivity boom. So as I said, I would expect starting on Monday, all these projects that have been on hold, waiting for the certainty for the tax bill, this expensing is going to be very powerful.
30 seconds.
And we made it permanent.
30 seconds. Are we going to see any rate cuts? I know you can't tell us any inside information, but too late, pal. What is going on here? Because we need to start to see rate cuts. It's major for the economy.
That the market's pricing in 2 rate cuts for the year. That seems about right. The 2-year bond is much lower than the overnight rate. And when asked about the Fed, I said, look, if they don't go sooner, it just means they have to do more later, which is the history of being late.
Well, President Trump has branded him as too late, pal. Mr. Secretary, again, sincerely, you were working your tail off. It's appreciated. It's noticed. And thank you for all of the accomplishments. And it's hard to believe it's not even been 6 months. We have your back. Thank you so much.
Good, Charlie. Thanks. Always good to be with you.
You too. Thank you.